Yeet! Mr. Royal Rumble himself, mid-card, Jey Uso, came out to the ring, not the closet, waving his arms as the sheeple in the stands yelled his dated, antiquated catchword. Michael Cole, for reasons unknown, seemingly, I wasn't listening properly, seemingly talked about impotency. Impotency, erectile dysfunction, hell of a thing, not that I'd know. If anyone here looks like they wouldn't be able to get it up in the bedroom, frankly, it is Michael Cole. Cole was also doing the yeet thing, looking like the world's lamest dad, trying to be cool. Genuinely a just awful start to the show. Gunther, who is clearly the babyface to anyone with common sense, saved us from any further retardation when he burst in and jumped Jey Uso, demanding the guy not pick him for WrestleMania. You see, Gunther wants to be a main eventer, not wrestling half of a tag team getting a token thank you run. Can you blame him? Kayfabe or reality, you should always aim high in life. And enraged, Jey Uso then confirmed it will indeed be him versus Gunther at WrestleMania. A bad matchup that we just saw at Saturday night's mid-event, confirmed with 2 months to go till WrestleMania. So here is a question. Does this mean Gunther doesn't defend the gold again until WrestleMania? What does he do until then? This guy almost never wrestles and gets minimal screen time week to week, considering he's the world champion. What a complete waste of a Royal Rumble. And Gunther, really, he just looks like a genuine imbecile here, the more you think about it. He didn't want to wrestle Jey Uso again, so he antagonizes and attacks him, firing the guy up to want some revenge. Zero logic. There are, of course, plenty of heel characters where making a mistake like this would make perfect sense. Gunther, though, is not one of them. The whole point of this guy is he's got a high fight IQ. He's a thinking man's champion who uses his superior ring intellect and brutality to expertly wear opponents down and take them out. Here, though, he seems like a hot-headed fool. Now, obviously, English is not Gunther's first language, and cutting promos and doing character work in a second language is, of course, very difficult. But the guy seriously lacks emotional range. He did a promo in the back vowing to make Jey Uso's life hell. This is clearly meant to be intense, and there have been many heels over the years who would seem very menacing and even unhinged working with material like this. Instead, Gunther just seemed a little bit disappointed, with very little anger or hatred in his tone of voice, and very little facial expression of any kind. Even though the whole segment suggested his hatred for Jey Uso has made him irrational and crazed, he seemed kinda contained and low-key talking about it. Now look, a lot of people love Jey Uso, fair enough, but him and Gunther simply do not have much chemistry, which is going to hurt Uso's feel-good, underdog story, assuming he wins the belt at WrestleMania. Rhea Ripley is at this point now where she is overexposed. As far as these women's wrestlers who want to be men's wrestlers go, she's one of the better talents on the roster, no doubt. But all of her promos, if you've heard one of them, you've heard them all, and the belt just orbits her at all times. She was whinging again here about the clone of Charlotte Flair not deciding on a WrestleMania champion to challenge just yet. That was pretty much it. Yeah, it wasn't really that interesting. The next women's match went almost 15 minutes, which is surprisingly long for a TV episode. A tag match, where only 2 of the 4 are even arguably over. Dakota Jubb and Raquel Tollady, no one cares. Both were born with a severe, tragic condition known as Zero Charisma Syndrome. It's incurable. Decent tag match for what it was, but there were some poorly timed spots here and there. At one point, Io Sky rolled up Liv Morgan. It was presumably meant to be a close, near fall to try and amp up the intensity of the bout in the closing stretch, but Morgan kicked out way too early for it to hit that right note. Io Sky picked up a win with a moonsault on Morgan, getting a little bit of payback from last week. Kinda dead crowd initially, but the last few minutes got some reaction, with a nice pop for Sky getting the win. Michael Cole next revealing resident soy chai latte has two therapists, friends with his wife's boyfriend, beta male Sami Zayn, is out with severe spinal injuries from Kevin Owens' attack last week. Now, to be clear to the very literal-minded turbo marks out there, this is not a roast of the actual man who plays the Sami Zayn character. His character, not his real-life personality, his character on screen, is everything wrong with men's wrestling in WWE right now. He's always trying to be friends with people. He's always trying to be nice and do the right thing. He's unmanly by the lofty standards of wrestling. He's not threatening. He's reasonable. And he's quite emotional. It's this demasculinization of male wrestlers that Triple H and, before she left, his wife, Stephanie McNo-Talent Nepo Brat, are obsessed with doing. Weak-looking, undersized, nice guy male wrestlers. It completely goes against every bit of logic of what a big male star is meant to represent. And it's not by accident. It's not a fad. It's by design. And it's the cancer that will really damage the WWE over the next few years if it isn't sorted out. Heel New Day did a promo next, and the Heel New Day are jobbers. There was potential for a lot of heat after they trashed Big E, but they've been relegated to undercard fodder immediately. Kofi Kingston, funnily enough, was booed for mentioning his big 2019 push. Wonderful! I've been booing it since it started. The worst WWE champion of all time. Everything I just said about Sami Zayn applies to Kingston back then as well. He turned the WWE Championship into a mid-card consolation prize. That's the ultimate heel move right there. And the hero who put a stop to the madness isn't even allowed on the show anymore. Bring back Brock, I say. Bayley took on the Birdwoman next. The Birdwoman was on Sheamus's workout channel recently. She's in excellent shape and put together a neat workout that blended old-school wrestling conditioning moves with more CrossFit-style circuits. It was quite interesting. And she's the new women's mid-card champion. Maybe a big win here and a spot in the Elimination Chamber could help to elevate both her and the title she holds. Oh, no, of course not. Bayley needs a win again. Bayley is quite simply the worst wrestler to have reached this level of success, possibly ever. Appalling, unbearably awkward promo. Sounds like a kid actor who got introduced to booze the night before and is now so hungover they can't remember the lines they didn't even know how to deliver in the first place. In the ring, bar a decent top rope elbow, she has one of the absolute worst movesets in the business right now. For years, her finisher was a soft, slow, awkward, belly-to-belly suplex. Now it's this hideous kneeling faceplant, this faker than Tiffany Stratton's cleavage-looking trash heap of a low-impact, awkward-to-set-up mess of a move. Bird Lady, meanwhile, she's out here hitting tornado DDTs and fisherman suplexes. That's pretty good. Decent finish, with the pair exchanging cradle pinfall attempts before Bayley locked in one that actually got the win. The pair stood around after and got some claps from the audience. Frankly, the wrong wrestler won. They made a big thing of Bird Lady growing up idolizing Bayley, even though she must have been at least 18, 19 by the time Bayley really took off, I think. And putting down her hero to try and advance her career could have been quite interesting. Could have been built up for a week or two before this match as well as a little subplot, a little wrinkle to the action. But hey, overall, decent psychology in this match, with a logical story of a crafty veteran outwitting a gutsy rising star. Up next, Penta complained about having to feud with two bona fide jobbers. Fair enough. Ludwig Jobber and Pete Jubb then had a dull, zero charisma interaction where Jubb vowed to take Penta down. Meh! Could you imagine if Triple Nose had his shiny new lucha toy return the favor to Finger Boy next week? Pete Dunne is one of these Triple H favorites. A boring, alleged work rate manlet regular fans don't care about, who is forced onto the show because maybe, just maybe, the lame is still upset about that time Vince McMahon gutted NXT a couple of years ago. So I actually did some research for this next part, and according to my sources, i.e. Wikipedia, Michael Cole was born on December 8th, begging the question, why was there a birthday sing-along for him on this show? And why was a talking segment followed by another talking segment? Too much yap yap. Back when WCW was actually a thing and beating the WWF in the ratings, one of the key reasons it did better was because it had a lot more action. Time and again, Raw would have a talking segment. You change the channel. Nitro, meanwhile, had elite, actual work rate, guys. Actual high-quality work rate, not this modern indie nonsense, in their mid-card, and huge, if slightly past it, top dog stars in their main events. Apparently WWE has chosen to forget the valuable lesson they learned from those ratings wars. AJ Styles came out to cut a promo that just served to confirm he's a babyface again. Last year, he came back as a face, showed some fire as a heel for his Cody Rhodes feud, and is now a face again. I'm getting some Big Show vibes here. To really hammer home that Styles is a face again, the Judgment Day came out, Dominik Mysterio and Jub Leto, and they made a bit of reference to Styles' old feud with the original Judgment Day. Is this teasing another Styles-Finn Balor feud? Many years back now, a lot of smarks acted like Styles versus Balor was some mega money feud because they'd both been the leader of Bullet Club in New Japan at some point or other. In New Japan, sure, maybe this feud would have drawn, okay. But in WWE, yeah, not quite. Good wrestlers, but Balor has never landed as an upper card guy in the WWE, and has rarely been given the ball to roll with at all after he got hurt in his only world title winning match ever, a month into his main roster run, unless you count the NXT belt as a world title belt, I suppose. Another feud between these two here doesn't really do favours for either guy, neither of whom can afford a major singles loss right now if they are to remain credible. Speaking of Balor, he came out and ruined Seth Rollins' promo next. Rollins vowed to win the Chamber and challenge Cody Rhodes. Now, it's not necessarily Mania-worthy, but Rollins versus Rhodes is interesting. There is a lot of story here. From Rollins putting Rhodes through hell when he first came back in 2022, to the guys becoming pals, and Rollins saving Cody Rhodes' title dreams last year, to the fact that Rollins is yet to beat the American Nightmare one-on-one. Had there been an actually good World Heavyweight title bout at WrestleMania this year, Rhodes versus Rollins could have balanced the card and been an intriguing story. Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, two would've, could've, should've beens, were up next, and made to look like chumps as per usual, with Kathy Kelly cutting off their comedy routine and then just accepting it. Do you remember when Austin Theory was meant to be the next big thing? At this rate, he'll be in the budget cuts one of these days, and we'll be asking what Dallas Philosophy is doing in the All-Elite Zone. So the War Raiders, they are quite a lot of fun. Easily one of WWE's best tag teams right now. Two big, ugly, nasty brutes just ploughing through the competition. You know what doesn't suit them, though? Heat building. The Creed brothers here cut off the ring and isolated Eric for a while, and it felt long. The whole appeal of the War Raiders is that they're wrecking balls, and while Ivar's eventual hot tag got the match back on track, the isolation stuff here completely neutered the pace of the match and turned it into a slug. The Creed brothers are strong athletes that have a lot of potential, but they're still rather green, and it shows in the often messily paced psychology of their bouts when they get slightly bigger spots like this one. The silly DQ finish got some heat here, and is likely going to stretch this pairing out into a longer feud. More tension next, teased again between Finn Balor and Dominik Mysterio. Neither of these guys are at all likable, which is fine because they're both heels, but either turning face will likely flop. And dissension in the Judgment Day seems to happen every year at this point. It's just rinse and repeat for a faction that was just meant to be Edge, trying to do Ministry of Darkness originally. CM Talk was out next to do what he does best, eat up TV time with his endless talking. He droned on about failing at the Rumble. Then he shouted out Cody Rhodes again, hinting at the AEW dream match that never was. Man, I tell you, Tony Khan's slow-burning nervous breakdown might finally be complete if Punk vs. Rhodes happens at WrestleMania this year. CM Punk once again called out John Cena, desperate for a pup using the guy's name as always, constantly name-dropping this much bigger star than himself, vowing to beat the crap out of old man Cena. Look, John Cena versus CM Punk was 1 month of fairly interesting TV in 2011. That's it. The feud never set the world on fire again, and even their rematch at that year's SummerSlam, just a month after the famous Money in the Bank bout, served as a bit of a flop. And frankly, both men had better arch-enemies in their primes who they gelled better with. John Cena had Randy Orton and he had Edge. CM Punk had Jeff Hardy and Daniel Bryan. This feud is not hip anymore. It has not been hip in well over a decade, and it largely revolved around exposing and criticizing the business in a disrespectful, Vince Russo-esque manner at a time where the PG era was completely castrating the promotion anyway. Logan Paul then stepped in, reminding us all of CM Punk's humiliation ritual at the Royal Rumble when he got eliminated by Prime Boy. Now there's an old saying, when you meet one jerk in a day, you met a jerk, it happens. When everyone you meet in a day is a jerk though, maybe it's not them, maybe it's you. Maybe you're the jerk. I mention this because these two both seem to run into trouble everywhere they go. The actual men I mean, not their scripted personas here. Anyways, the Maverick roasted CM Punk here and said getting eliminated by Paul was CM Punk's 15 minutes of fame, which was quite funny. The best Punk could do is say he forgot Paul had a match later tonight. Not exactly 2016 Conor McGregor on the trash talk front, but at least he tried. And funnily enough, oh, I didn't know you were wrestling tonight. I don't know that much about you. Ha 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 ha. I remember another wrestler who did that as trash talk. It's about 2 years ago now. It was in AEW. His name? Jack Perry. He was wrestling Sanada. That was New Japan's heavyweight champ at the time. And Sanada had made fun of how Jack Perry wasn't really an exciting challenger, because he's not. And Jack Perry's response was, oh, well, I've never even seen a Sanada match. Ha ha, gotcha. It was lame then. Everyone laughed at Jack Perry and how lame he seemed. CM Punk, the man who tried and failed to beat Jack Perry up, stole his line. His bad line that no one liked. Anyway, Punk then acted like Rey Mysterio is some huge obstacle to overcome, like Logan Paul was in danger. Here's the thing. Rey Mysterio is a living legend in wrestling, no one's denying that. A gifted, groundbreaking high flyer who even managed to get some world title wins in the WWE, despite his size being a huge limiting factor at the time. That being said, he loses a lot these days, and he stays in the mid-card, and he has done so for quite some time. He's also, funnily enough, lost to Logan Paul before. For those who actually like Logan Paul and enjoy his work, it's fair to say you probably want to see him wrestle new opponents. Right, so he's a famous guy, he only wrestles part-time. You want to see some variety with him when he's there. See him mix it up with fresh faces. Now that's fair enough. But WWE have this odd habit of rematching him when he agrees to work live TV. His first singles opponent in WWE was The Miz. He later rematched The Miz to qualify for an Elimination Chamber match. His first singles title win, a US title match victory over Rey Mysterio. Now he's rematching him for an Elimination Chamber spot. Some will say some unwarranted, boring BS about Paul being green and it being safer to have a steady hand with him in the ring. Total nonsense. Logan Paul is a natural in the ring. It pains me to say it, but it is true. This guy is a top-level athlete, and he seems fairly safe between the ropes. Give what few fans he has left at this point something interesting and hand him a fresh opponent. Now, this match with Rey Mysterio, it became a decent TV match, but it seemed very sloppy and awkward initially. Perhaps there was miscommunication, because it all felt very poorly executed. The action heated up as it wore on, though, including a neat moonsault fall-away hybrid slam from Paul to Mysterio. A lot of shenanigans on the outside here. Athletic exchanges in the ring, with both guys hitting springboard moonsaults. Mysterio at one point rocked Logan Paul with a sit-out powerbomb. The move looked good, and Paul bumped and sold for it well. But often you get these moves where the recipient just waits around to be slammed. Here, Mysterio is walking with Paul on his shoulders, and Paul does next to nothing to fight out of it. It just looks very rehearsed and phony. And this isn't just a problem or a criticism with these two in particular, it's a recurring issue in pro wrestling in general. Paul ultimately won with a new finisher Pat McAfee called the Paulverizer. It involved basically backflipping Mysterio into a big DDT brainbuster kind of landing. It looked very good. The real question is how well can Paul do it on bigger opponents? So to the shock of no one, Rey Mysterio did the job here. Oh, and then afterwards he got attacked by the Jub Day. A feud already ruined by the fact that Mysterio beat both New Day guys one-on-one, even with them cheating. Zero credibility. Even if they both manage to beat Mysterio now, the heat is already out of the oven.